Hello and welcome to Horrorfied, the show where the walls will ooze green slime. I'm your host Joshua Halstead. Today we're talking about opening scenes in horror movies. These are 5 great opening scenes in horror films that I think are among the best. What's your favorite scary movie? That's right, first up we're talking about Scream. Scream is one of my favorite horror films, one of the first slasher films that I ever saw, but much more importantly, Scream has an incredible opening scene. Scream was written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven, and because both of them are so in love with horror, the opening scene really gets them to be able to show how much they love horror. They have a bunch of references to other horror films, and they show that they understand how to be humorous while also being creepy. The opening scene finds Drew Barrymore's character Casey playing a game of horror movie trivia with a creepy stranger on the phone. But suddenly it changes, and she realizes she's actually been playing a game of Who Wants to Watch Your Boyfriend Die. Runs out of the house just in time to get killed by the killer, and for her parents to hear her death on the phone. Which allows them to not only reference a bunch of 80s slasher films, but also allows them to pull an Alfred Hitchcock by killing the most notable actor at the very beginning of the film. In 1975, Steven Spielberg blessed us with his blockbuster horror film, Jaws. Jaws has, inarguably, one of the most iconic horror movie opening scenes of all time. The couple decides to go for a late-night skinny dip, and as the man is undressing, the female is already in the ocean. Suddenly, a mysterious, unseen force pulls her under the water. She starts screaming for help, she's drowning, we see blood come up, and we see that a shark, the titular shark nonetheless, is eating her. It sets up exactly what you're getting into. It's creepy, they don't overuse the shark effect so that it doesn't just seem cheesy and fake, and the acting is all top-notch. It really sets the tone for the film, and it's iconic not just because it's so well shot and acted and so clever, but because it's the first thing you see in the film. It's immediately setting you up to be scared. It immediately shows you how big of a threat this shark really is. Have you checked the children? Because 1979's When a Stranger Calls, that's exactly what Carol Kane should have done the first time she heard the stranger's disturbing voice. When a Stranger Calls is a 1979 horror film starring Carol Kane and Charles Durning that's based on the folktale that most of us have heard and know of a stranger calling a babysitter, asking if she's checked the children. The babysitter at first brushes it off, keeps happening, she starts to get a little bit more creeped out. Finally, she calls the cops, and she asks the cops if they could please trace the call. The cops trace the call, she gets another call, she answers, it's the cops, and they say, leave the house because the call is coming from inside the house. Except for here's the thing with the original When a Stranger Calls. Unlike its remake, the entire film is a separate story. The whole folktale is in the opening scene, and the rest of the film is a different story. Now, the film itself is kind of mediocre, mostly positive, some negatives, not a great film. But the opening scene is so creepy and so iconic and so well put together that it actually kind of makes up for the rest of the film's sort of mishmash. We all float down here, and in 2017's It, you'll float too. Now, the opening scene to It is the opening scene that's used in the book, it's used in the miniseries, and in the 2017 film. It's one of the most iconic opening scenes in horror history because of it, and because it is such a huge and iconic story within the horror genre. But here's the thing, nobody did it as well as the 2017 movie. Now, in the miniseries, they were hindered by the TV censors. They couldn't show all of the blood. They couldn't actually have something bad happening to a child. They couldn't go as creepy as they wanted to go. But with Andy Muschietti's new take, he's able to be just as brutal and just as harsh as he wants to be. So 2017's It starts with Georgie going out and playing with that paper boat that we all know so much as it washes down the drain. He confronts Pennywise, the dancing clown, who tricks him into reaching down for the boat and then eats his freaking arm on screen, blood and all, as the kid starts writhing around and screaming, only one-armed, and is pulled into the gutter. It's creepy, it's terrifying, it's brutal, and it's kind of hard to believe that it got past the censors. If you're a horror movie fan, then you probably know what the next one I'm going to talk about is. That's right, it's 1979's Halloween. Halloween has what I think is probably the best horror movie opening scene of all time. Now, it's obviously super iconic, but it's not just the best because it's well-known or it's iconic. It's the best because nobody that I've seen has been able to capture just how chilling and disturbing and gut-wrenching the opening scene of John Carpenter's original Halloween is. So if you don't know, if you're uninitiated with the franchise, the opening scene follows somebody from their perspective, through the eyes of somebody, as they go into a house, They pick up a knife. They follow by. They see the room where their sister is having some private time. They watch the boy that she was with leave the house. Then this person goes up the stairs and walks into the room. And then you see the girl turn, and she seems to know whoever is in her room, because she looks directly at you, at the camera, at the killer, and goes, "Michael? Michael?" And then we see the knife raise and stab, stab, stab from our perspective. He goes outside and he stops, and we see a cab pull up, and these parents get out, and the parents walk over, and then there's this moment. You all know what moment I'm talking about. The moment where the dad has to bend down to take off the mask of the killer. The camera changes perspectives, and we see what we unfortunately suspected. It is, in fact, a child. A child who's sitting there looking as scared, as terrified, as horrified as the parents are. It sets up the monster of the film. It's terrifying, it is chilling, and it is genius. Not to mention, it's accompanied by one of the greatest horror movie scores of all time. And there you have it, folks. 5 great horror movie opening scenes. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share.